Charity isn't about competition, for God's sake. It's about stopping poverty in Africa. And the fact that he's now talking about setting up a rival charity just shows how sick he is. Dr. Sophie Chandoka comes in to present the cup. Meghan is unhappy about the fact that she's next to Harry.
It was supposed to be Prince Harry's proudest legacy, Sentebale, the charity he co-founded in his mother's honor to help children living with HIV in Africa. A cause Diana herself championed with grace, compassion, and authenticity. A cause that reflected the very soul of her public life. But today, that legacy lies in ashes. And the man who once called himself a torchbearer for Diana's mission, he's the one holding the match. This week, the world watched in disbelief as Prince Harry officially walked away from Sentebale, not quietly, not gracefully, but in a storm of accusations, bruised egos, and scorched earth. And at the center of it all, Meghan Markle. Again, let's not sugarcoat it. This wasn't just a disagreement. It wasn't a mutual parting of ways. It was a full-blown implosion. The kind that sends shockwaves through not just royal circles, but global charitable institutions, because the way Harry handled it was nothing short of catastrophic. The headlines say it all. Prince Harry reprimanded for crisis at charity. Watchdog criticizes Harry for his role in the bullying row, and the kicker. He's planning to start a rival charity. A rival charity? Competing with Sentebale, the very organization he created to honor his late mother? That's not just petty. That's disgraceful. So what happened? Why is Harry severing ties with the most meaningful project of his royal life? And why are people, supporters, donors, even royal fans, pointing the finger at Meghan Markle? It all began, as these stories often do, with ego. But not just Harry's ego, Meghan's too. At the heart of the Sentebale fallout was a power struggle between Prince Harry and Dr. Sophie Chandoka, a respected Black female leader who had dedicated herself to keeping the charity alive and thriving. Meghan reportedly couldn't stand her. Why? Because Sophie represented everything Meghan is not: accomplished, credible, respected on her own merits, and unwilling to play palace PR games. The tension boiled over during an awkward moment on stage. Yes, something as simple as who stood where on a podium. Meghan reportedly staged a cold, visibly irritated moment when Sophie handed Harry an award. No eye contact, no warmth. And when the cameras caught it, instead of apologizing or smoothing it over, Meghan expected Sophie to release a public statement defending her behavior. Sophie refused. She refused to lie. And that, according to insiders, is when the war began. Harry, by all accounts, took Meghan's side without question. And that decision detonated his relationship with the very charity he claimed to hold so dear. According to a brutal new report by the Charity Commission, both sides in the feud, Harry and the remaining board, were criticized for airing their dirty laundry in public. But the most damning part? The commission specifically called out Harry for mismanagement and for failing to resolve internal disputes, which severely damaged Sentebale's reputation. And make no mistake, in a world of charities, reputation is currency. You lose that, you lose everything. Rather than accept the findings or offer a quiet apology, Harry lashed out. He slammed the investigation, accused the commission of falling short, and declared that the real victims here weren't him or the board, but the children of Africa who will now suffer because, in his words, the charity is no longer brilliant like it was under his control. Let that sink in. Harry started a fire, watched it burn, then blamed the ashes on everyone else. And now he wants to start over. He's allegedly considering launching a new charity to support the same causes, one that conveniently excludes Dr. Chandoka, excludes those who stood up to him, and conveniently allows him to rewrite the narrative. It's a textbook PR move. Destroy the original, paint yourself as the savior, and pretend the past never happened. But people aren't buying it. Even royal commentators who once supported Harry are calling this a new low. Angela Levin, his biographer, said his mother would be ashamed. Others have called it selfish, egotistical, even sick, using a children's charity as a stage for his own personal melodrama. And let's talk about that legacy for a moment. Princess Diana didn't just shake hands with AIDS patients for a photo op. She sat with them, hugged them, loved them when the world was still too afraid to look them in the eye. She made it her mission to treat those suffering from HIV with dignity, not pity. And Harry knew that. He built Sentebale in her name. He traveled to Lesotho. He met the children. He cried with them. He vowed to carry on her work. And now, over a petty feud that most grown adults would have handled with a single conversation, he's walked away. Not with grace, not with sorrow, but with a scorched earth press release and the threat of setting up competition. Let's be honest, this wasn't just about charity. This was about Meghan. According to people close to the situation, Meghan was never truly interested in Sentebale. It wasn't glamorous enough. It wasn't a Hollywood production. There were no red carpets, no podcast angles, no camera-friendly moments that made her the center of attention. In fact, the one time she was on that stage beside Dr. Chandoka, her discomfort was palpable. And when Sophie didn't play along, Meghan allegedly made her pay. That's the kind of influence Meghan now has over Harry. He's not just turning on his family. He's now turning on his own causes. The causes that mattered. The ones that were supposed to be above all this royal drama. Dr. Chandoka, for her part, has shown remarkable grace. Her public statement praised the Charity Commission and reaffirmed her commitment to the children of Africa. She never stooped to Harry's level, never attacked him personally. But make no mistake, her refusal to bend the knee was a victory for every person who's ever been bullied by powerful people who think they're untouchable. And here's the wild part. Some of those still working with Dr. Chandoka today are allies of Prince William, which just makes the contrast between the two princes even sharper. While Harry torches Sentebale, William continues to support initiatives that reflect Diana's values, quietly, without drama, without headlines. While Harry clings to victimhood and vendettas, William stays focused on the work, the actual work. This isn't a royal rivalry anymore. It's a moral one, because at the end of the day, the real victims here aren't Harry, or Meghan, or Sophie. It's the children. The ones who depended on Sentebale for medicine, education, and hope. The ones who didn't ask to be dragged into this mess. The ones Diana cared about. And now, they've become collateral damage. Harry may still believe he's acting in their best interest. He may believe that starting a new charity will somehow make things right. But you don't honor your mother's legacy by destroying the only thing that kept it alive. You don't rebuild by throwing away the foundation. And you certainly don't help children by turning a humanitarian mission into a personal revenge plot. This was supposed to be about healing, about service, about love. Now, it's just another chapter in the slow, painful unraveling of Prince Harry. There was a time when people hoped he would find clarity, that Meghan's influence would soften, that he'd remember who he was before the palaces and paparazzi and podcasts. But with every headline like this, that hope fades. He didn't just walk away from a charity. He walked away from his mother's memory. And that's something no PR firm, no Netflix series, and no new charity will ever be able to fix. Prince Harry may believe he's writing his own story now, but history will remember this moment. The moment he burned Diana's legacy to the ground. Not for a cause, not for principle, not for the children, but for Meghan. And yet, even now, some media outlets are trying to paint this as a both sides story. That Harry was somehow equally wronged. That the fallout from Sentebale was just the natural result of misunderstandings and internal conflict. But let's be clear, this wasn't a corporate disagreement. It wasn't an innocent misstep. This was sabotage, calculated, ego-driven, and entirely preventable. Those close to the charity have whispered it for months, that Meghan didn't want Harry tied to the organization anymore, that she saw Dr. Chandoka as competition, that she hated that the story wasn't about her. And Harry, instead of balancing both worlds, the Hollywood prince and the humanitarian son, he chose the spotlight over substance. He chose to protect Meghan's ego instead of preserving Diana's mission. And that's the heartbreaking part, because Sentebale was doing real work, on the ground, in places most celebrities wouldn't dare step foot in. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't headline-worthy most days, but it mattered to the children, to their families, to the memory of a mother who gave everything to show the world that these lives were not disposable. And now, because of an internal war fueled by pride, jealousy, and a thirst for control, it's all been overshadowed. Donors are hesitant. Board members are leaving. Public trust has taken a hit. And Harry, he's walking away as if it's someone else's mess to clean up. But here's what makes this even more disturbing. This isn't the first time. It's a pattern. Look at Archewell, the podcast deals, the Spotify collapse. the Netflix struggles. Every venture Harry and Meghan have touched since stepping away from the royal family has turned into a storm of broken promises, bruised reputations, and shifting blame. They sign on, they bring the cameras, they promise change. And then, when it doesn't go their way, they pull the plug, issue a statement, and spin the narrative.
Every
Single
time.
But Sentebale was supposed to be different. This wasn't Hollywood. This wasn't media. This was life and death. Real people, real suffering. And Harry turned it into a vanity project gone wrong. Dr. Sophie Chandoka's quiet strength throughout this is what truly exposed the Sussexes. She didn't throw tantrums. She didn't threaten lawsuits. She simply stood firm. She let the facts speak. And in the end, she won. She became a symbol, not just of professional integrity, but of the very kind of leadership Diana would have applauded. Dignified, grounded, unafraid to speak truth to power. Meanwhile, Harry is talking about launching a rival charity, competing with Sentebale, taking resources away from an existing network of help and hope just to rebuild something that centers around him. That's not charity. That's revenge. And if he really wanted to help the children of Lesotho and Botswana, he wouldn't be drawing battle lines. He'd be working to repair the damage, to apologize, to rebuild trust. But that's not what this version of Harry does. This Harry is bitter. He's petty. He's out for redemption, not for the people who need him, but for himself. And Meghan? She's nowhere to be found in the charity's actual work. Not on the ground, not in the hospitals, not in the villages. But her fingerprints are all over the drama, the division, the whisper campaigns, the manipulation behind the scenes. Even longtime royal analysts, many of whom once tried to give Meghan the benefit of the doubt, are now saying the same thing. Meghan sees everything through a PR lens. If it doesn't boost her brand, it's discarded, forgotten, dismantled. And sadly, Harry is letting her drag down what's left of his credibility in the process. Let's not forget, the royal family tried to warn him. William, in particular, urged caution, advised patience, pleaded with him not to make every decision based on emotion or infatuation. But Harry didn't listen. And now, Meghan hasn't just driven a wedge between him and his family. She's poisoned the one thing that connected him to the world in a meaningful way. Because before Meghan, Harry had a purpose. Yes, he was the spare. But he turned that into something beautiful. He used that freedom to champion causes his family didn't always have the time or visibility to pursue. He visited war zones. He founded the Invictus Games. He launched Sentebale. He was, in many ways, the people's prince. And now, he's a cautionary tale. Not just of what happens when love blinds you, but of what happens when you let pride, jealousy, and ego dictate your every move. The people of Lesotho are watching. The families of children suffering from HIV are watching. Princess Diana's former colleagues, friends, and admirers are watching. And many of them are heartbroken. Because this wasn't supposed to happen. This charity wasn't supposed to become a battlefield. And Diana's name was never supposed to be dragged through the mud as part of a Sussex PR disaster. And here's the part Harry might not understand until it's far too late. Starting a new charity won't erase this stain. No amount of press releases or redemptive interviews or glossy new websites will undo what just happened. The damage is done, the trust is broken, and the world saw how he handled it. The truth is, legacies aren't just about good intentions. They're about consistency, sacrifice, humility, traits Diana lived by, even when the cameras were off, even when the headlines were cruel. She kept showing up. Harry, he walked away. And worst of all, he blamed everyone else on his way out the door. So now, as the dust settles, we're left with the ruins of Sentebale, a damaged brand, a divided board, a lost opportunity, all because Harry couldn't rise above personal grievances, because Meghan couldn't stand to share the spotlight, and because neither of them remembered what charity is really about. It's not about being the face of the foundation. It's about the people the foundation serves. And for Harry, that truth may now come too late. Princess Diana gave the world her heart. Harry just handed over a press statement. And in the end, that difference says everything. And yet, the saddest part of this entire implosion is that Prince Harry still believes he's doing the right thing. He still sees himself as the misunderstood reformer, the black sheep who dared to challenge the establishment. In his mind, the problem isn't how he handled the charity. It's that others didn't fall in line, didn't see his vision, didn't accept his authority. didn't take his side. And that kind of delusion, it's not just dangerous, it's corrosive. Because once you convince yourself you're always the victim, you stop being accountable. And that's what we're seeing play out here. Meghan and Harry have made a habit of walking into rooms, causing chaos, then walking out pretending they were attacked. It happened with the royal family. It happened with Spotify. It happened with their own staff. And now it's happened with Sentebale. And the pattern is so clear, so repetitive, that even their most loyal defenders are growing quiet. Because how many times can you scream, "unfair treatment," before people start asking? Maybe it's not them. Let's go back to the core of this. Diana, the name that still carries emotional weight around the world. The mother Harry claims to miss every single day. The woman whose picture he keeps close, whose legacy he invokes in every major decision. And yet, in this moment, when the opportunity came to live her values, not just use her image, he failed. Diana didn't build trust through branding. She didn't need to. Her authenticity was her power. When she hugged an AIDS patient, it wasn't for a photo op. It was because she meant it. She stood in landmine fields, visited orphanages, sat beside the sick, all without expecting praise, without expecting applause. She never had to say, "I care." People could see it. Harry, on the other hand, has become the prince of press releases, the king of camera-ready compassion. He wants the credit, but he doesn't want the criticism. He wants to be seen as Diana's son, but not held to her standard. And Meghan? She has tried time and time again to wrap herself in Diana's image. The wardrobe choices, the camera angles, even the sound bites in their documentaries. It's all part of a carefully constructed illusion that she is the next people's princess, that she is the one carrying the torch. But people aren't fooled, because compassion can't be staged, and neither can legacy. Diana didn't need Netflix to prove her worth. But Meghan? Meghan needs the whole world to clap, even when she's done nothing to deserve it. And what did Diana stand for? Truly?
Dignity,
Selflessness,
service.
the ability to be invisible if it meant someone else could shine. Could you imagine Diana demanding a press statement from a charity chairwoman to explain away a bad photo? Could you imagine her pouting over a podium moment that wasn't about her? Of course not. But Meghan did. And Harry stood behind her. Again, what does that tell us? It tells us that the Sussexes have fundamentally misunderstood what it means to serve. And the consequences are no longer just tabloid drama. They're real, tangible. Children who won't get the same level of support. Donors who no longer feel confident in giving. Staff who are burned out, humiliated, and cast aside. And a global public that's growing more disillusioned by the day. What's more shocking is how easily this could have been avoided. A single apology. A single moment of humility. A single meeting to clear the air. But Harry and Meghan chose escalation. They chose to tear the charity apart rather than admit they might have handled something poorly. And that speaks volumes. You see, true leadership means taking responsibility, even when it's uncomfortable. Especially when it's uncomfortable. But Harry has turned into someone who runs from that responsibility the moment it threatens his image. And that brings us back to his idea of a rival charity.
Let's really think about that.
Instead of working with the organization he built, he now wants to create a competing one, pulling attention, money, and focus away from Sentebale and toward a new venture that he controls completely.
Why?
Because in that world, there's no Dr. Chandoka, no strong voices who can say no, no colleagues who hold him accountable, just Harry, Meghan, and a carefully curated narrative. That's not philanthropy. That's empire building. That's ego dressed up as empathy. And make no mistake, this isn't about the children. If it were, none of this would be happening. Because the number one rule in charity work is simple. It's not about you. But for Harry and Meghan, it's always about them. The brand, the revenge, the redemption arc. And every time they insert themselves into a new cause, it seems to end the same way, fractured, bitter, and worse than it started. Now, to the Sussexes' defenders, they'll say this is just growing pains, that they're still learning, that Harry's heart is in the right place. But how many times can you make that excuse before it becomes denial? He's not a teenager. He's not a rookie. He's a grown man in his 40s who had the best examples in the world. His mother, his brother, his grandparents. And still, he chose this path. He chose to throw away years of trust, partnerships, and goodwill because his wife felt disrespected on a stage. Because a woman wouldn't write a press release to protect Meghan's image. That's what it all boils down to. It's embarrassing, and it's deeply sad. Because Harry had the chance to be something truly rare, a royal who broke away without breaking down, a leader who forged his own path without burning the bridges behind him. But instead, he's become exactly what critics feared, an attention-chasing exile who turns everything he touches into a public spectacle. And worst of all, the people he hurts aren't faceless. They're real. Children in Botswana, volunteers, longtime donors, former colleagues who gave everything to make Sentebale a success. These are the casualties of Harry and Meghan's personal drama, not the press, not the royals, not the tabloids, real people. So as Harry prepares to unveil whatever new vanity project he's dreaming up next, he should ask himself one question. Will this help the children, or will it just help him? Because history is watching now. And so is the world. And no matter how many Netflix specials he films, no matter how many glossy documentaries he produces, one image will linger forever. Not Diana walking through a landmine field, not Harry holding the hand of an orphan child, but Harry standing at the edge of the legacy his mother built, with a match in his hand. And yet, after all of this, after the headlines, after the charity watchdog's damning report, after the public feud and the resignation, Prince Harry still has his defenders. Those who cling to the narrative that he's just finding himself, that he's being led astray, that he means well. But how long can that story hold water? At some point, intent no longer matters. Results do. And the result here is that the children's Sentebale was created to help are now left in limbo. Funding is drying up. Partnerships are shaken. Staff are demoralized. And the man who once championed their cause has walked away in a cloud of bitterness. Because this wasn't about a single event. It wasn't about one disagreement, one misunderstanding, or one woke board member, as Harry's fans like to paint it. This was about control, about power, about Meghan's need to dictate the terms of every room she walks into, and Harry's willingness to let her do it. The message sent is chilling. Disagree with us, and we will destroy the institution. Not correct it, not reform it,
Burn it to the ground.
We've seen it with the royal family, with the media, with business deals, and now with a children's charity. It's become a pattern so clear, so undeniable, that even the most neutral observers are left stunned. And here's the great irony. Harry once accused his family of being trapped in a toxic system. But look at him now. Is he free? Is he at peace? Is he growing? Or is he trapped in a new system? One built not on duty and tradition, but on resentment and revenge? One where his every move is calculated not by what's right, but by what protects Meghan's image. One where he's constantly running from shadows he himself creates, while blaming everyone else for the darkness. Because, let's be honest, it wasn't William or Charles or the British press who ruined Sentebale. It was Harry, and he knows it. No matter how many statements he issues, no matter how many rival charities he tries to launch, that truth won't go away. And neither will Diana's memory, because people remember who she was, what she stood for. They remember how she turned pain into purpose, how she fought stigma with empathy, and how she never once needed to tear anyone else down to do good. That's the standard Harry inherited, and that's the standard he failed to uphold. So when people say Diana would be proud, let's pause. Let's really ask, would she? Would she be proud of a son who throws tantrums when others won't obey? Would she be proud of a man who blames a black woman for standing her ground? Would she be proud of someone who let jealousy, vanity, and petty rivalry consume the charity she inspired? The answer, no matter how painful, is no. And perhaps that's the most tragic part of all. Because Sentebale didn't just lose its co-founder. It lost its moral compass. And unless Prince Harry finds his again, everything he touches, every cause, every partnership, every mission, will end up the same way, in flames.